Hey, what's up guys? Tim here with DaGoatCards. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing a little like combo tutorial, like guide, some like tips and tricks or whatever you want to call it for how to play the DPE Swordsoul deck I posted on my channel this week from the regional. So it's just going to be like a little, so we'll go through some test hands and I'll show you my thought process and how to play out the hand and where it goes and all that sort of stuff. So let's just quickly throw a hand out. It's hopefully not brick on the first hand. Okay, so this is pretty good actually. It's got really good because of this. I'm just gonna make sure that the camera is gonna show. Okay, cool. So sorry about that. So we're gonna go. Actually, I can angle this a little bit better again. There we go. Perfect. So we're gonna normal you as our first play. Reveal blackout to make a token. So this is like gonna be like our basic starting line a lot of the time. This sounds really good because we have Fusion Destiny plus Ash plus Nibiru plus Blackout, so it's like pretty crazy. Obviously if this gets impumped or whatever, we're just going to Fusion Destiny, this is fine. So that Blackout, and then we have 2 forms of interruption plus 2 hand traps, and then Celestial and Grey for the follow-up. But let's just presume that there's no hand trap interactions here, right? So we're going to Mo Yi, reveal Blackout some token like we said. Synchro these 2 off into a Chi-Zhao. Chi-Zhao Chainlink 1, Mo Yi Chainlink 2 to draw. Draw Power Desires, okay. This could be anything. We'll just put this back because obviously it being Power Desires is like way too good. So we'll just put like something random into our hand, like a extra Ash or something. Because you know the Desires draw is way too good here. So we're gonna add. There's a couple of things we can like add here. So our options here in like the thought process is gonna be Longyang, Tai. Well, that's an impump, sorry. Tai. We don't need the trap card because we already have it. Emergence, and I believe, oh yeah, and the not ritual spell, the monster reborn spell. So the reason why these are like, I'll just move the hand out of the way quickly. So the reason these are in our thought process is because we want to, so like Longyang, maybe we want to discard Blackout to make a floor, but I don't think we want to do that. So we're going to put the Longyang back because that's generally not how we're going to want to play this hand because we want the Blackout to tribute this off, right? Sacred Summit we're obviously not going to need because we've only got Mo Yi and Graves, so it's not really going anywhere. So our options are basically Emergence or Tai. So I believe we're going to take Emergence because we're not going to search for, we're not going to want to like normal summon this time, we're going to want to Emergence for this. So we're going to Emergence for the Tai. And then what this does for us is rather than searching directly for the Tai, we now have a card to banish for Chi-Zhao and something to banish for Tai for the following turn, right? And then, so this is only 3 summons as well. So we're going to Fusion Destiny. Let's play around, you know, and just summon our DPE. The reason we're summoning stuff in attack mode, this would be like on the far end to play around Relinquish Anima, but the camera's not going to show it, so we're just going to put it in the middle. So we'll send our Fusion Destiny targets. And then the reason for us summoning in attack mode is to play around Zeus. So they're going to really struggle to attack into us now. So that kind of protects us from that. Also, we now have DPE Chi-Zhao and our hard drawn Blackout and you know, our like selection of hand traps. This random card we drew off Moye, which could be anything, and then a Tai for follow up on the following turn, as well as Celestial Dasher for follow up. And we can also have access to Yazi with Tai's effect. So we've got like loads of follow up here, and this is an under 5 summons. Which is obviously really good because it means we don't get Nibiru. That's kind of like the way I like to play the deck. Rather than searching for like a Longyang here, instead of Tai, and then bidding Blackout for Longyang to make a floor. I don't believe that's very good because it plays into Nib like really hard. And then we don't have Blackout or like Tai for follow-up, whereas this like generates us let's count it actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of interaction with this for follow-up, this for follow-up, and this for follow-up, right? Bring this more onto the screen. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So like I just feel like that's a lot better. This is like more diverse as well. Because Floor is just going to be 1 negate, whereas this is trading with 2 things, which is a bit better going blind game 1. Maybe if we knew the matchup, we would do some stuff slightly differently, but yeah. So that's the first example hand, and that's how I would like choose to play it. Let's do another one. And obviously going second, that hand is pretty good as well. because we've got the 2 hand traps and a good amount of stuff to just sort of play into boards. Because, you know, Ash Nibiru right now is like really strong against most of the meta, I'm going to say. So yeah, let's just shuffle this up. Hopefully we get a hand that's like less crazy or like less good, because I want to show what we do with like worse hands and stuff like that. Because that's the thing, right, about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like you can always play your best hands and they're always going to be your best sort of like end boards. But it's learning how to play with worse hands where it like really sort of matters. Alright, so we got an Imperm, Veiler, Blackout, Moye, and Longyo. Okay, so this sounds like not as good because we don't have Fusion Destiny. But we do still have 2 hand traps, which is really nice. This one's obviously really good. Probably the best hand trap in the format. This one's fine. Okay, so we are going to, again, start by normal summon Moye. This is generally going to be how we start like every game. So this is like where it gets kind of interesting in terms of our decision tree, is which one we reveal. Because if we reveal Longyan, our opponent knows that we possibly have a lot more follow-up. But if we reveal Blackout, our opponent doesn't know we have follow-up, but they may potentially be like playing around this later. So it gets kind of like weird. So it's going to sort of be gauging your opponent, maybe knowing what they're playing, and that sort of stuff. So I think in this instance, just off the top of my head, I would reveal Blackout, because if this gets Veiler or Impermed, we still have the Blackout. But if they if we reveal Longyoung and they let this resolve, which they're very unlikely to, then we sort of have to play in with the Longyoung. We kind of want them to just like not know what we have in terms of follow-up, right? So yep, summon the token. And then Synchro, go for a Chi-Jiao again. We're basically always making Chi-Jiao. Chi-Jiao is just the best one to start with and stuff like that. So Chi-Jiao 1, mode 2, draw 1, draw Dasher. Perfect. Just an example of sometimes you draw these. But like we said, it's not the worst thing ever. Then we get the add. So this is where it gets kind of like wild, because this is third summon, right? So here we have our options again. I'll just lay them out. So we don't want Blackout or Longyan, so this time it's going to just be Emergence, Taie, or Sacred Summit. For the same reason, we're just never adding Taie, I think, directly. I think we're always just going to add Emergence first. So let's just set that up as like a little mental shortcut, that these are our 2 options instead of Taie. And obviously we don't want Blackout or Longyan because we already have it, right? So these are our 2 options. Where do we go from here? So this time, we don't have Fusion Destiny. So Sacred Summit is an interesting option, because obviously we could just bring back this and then make the Prayer Plant. However, that would be 5 summons, so it's kind of like awkward. So what we could do instead is, let's have a think. Also we do Dash as well, so it's a little bit less appealing, but still pretty decent. We have, because I think we have the Hydra Blackout, I feel like we just sort of, but we don't want to just have Chi-Jiao Blackout, right? So we do need to go for a second form of interruption. We obviously have 2 hand traps, we want a second form of like hard interruption that sticks to the table sort of thing. So I think in this instance, I would actually go for Sacred Summit. And then Sacred Summit for the Moyi. Oh, no, sorry, actually I wouldn't. That would be wrong. So, because I just realized we want to have this Blackout live. So I think actually we would take Emergence. And we'll do something a little bit different. We'll Emergence for the Taie. When I can find one, there we go. And what we're going to do here is we're going to have a little bit of a think about whether or not we want to play into Nibiru or not. Because obviously at this point, we know they don't have Veiler, we know they don't have Imperm. We've resolved an Emergence, we know they don't have Ash also. So we could just play it like really safe from the like, oh, and we know they don't have like Droll and stuff as well. So we know that what they do and sort of don't have. So we're going to kind of want to think about it. So what I'm inclined to do here is, rather than play the Longyan, I'm actually inclined to just set 2 and pass. The reason for it is I really just like playing around Nibiru, and this sort of, like, this hand is decent anyway, because we have Imperm Veiler. We also have the Blackout. So, and then we have Taie for follow-up, and our draw is like reasonably likely to be like a worm or something. It's order, but this sort of is like threatening like a decent amount of follow-up. It's really hard to play into this board for a lot of decks right now. Even the bird deck could struggle into this because of the 2 negates. 3 monster negates and that Blackout, right? So it's like, I think that's how I'd want to play it, to play around Nib. Let's do it if we didn't do that, and let's show where we could go with our decision tree otherwise. So obviously we'd have, in this like line of Emergence, maybe we don't Emergence add Taie if we're going for Longyan, maybe we just add Vishuda. The reason for adding Vishuda off Emergence is so we can have like a little bit of interaction or follow-up for the following turn, but obviously we don't have any like hard follow-up, which is why I don't like doing this play as much. And also it plays into Nibiru. So let's say we just do this, right? This would end with basically an extra negate but no follow-up, because it would turn this into the floor. When I can find it. Burn them for 12 or whatever, right? And then we have the 2 sets, the Veiler in hand and the Brick Dasher, right? We'll just assume that the draw is also going to be Imperial Order on the following turn. This is like what I don't necessarily like this as much, because this feels like it's playing very much so into board breakers and stuff like that. You know, you get Dark Ruler maybe or something like that, and then you're relying on this. Whereas I think like instead of making the floor and having the follow-up, I think that's slightly better. But we'll go over the Predaplant line as well, because, you know, 3 option trees, right? So this is on the field. So instead of adding Emergence, we would add Sacred Summit. And this is like kind of weird again, but there's like 2 lines we could do from here. So here is the first line. It is kind of scuffed. So again, this all plays into Nib from here, which is why I don't want to do it. But this line I feel like is probably slightly more rewarding. So this line is going to be that we discard for Long Yarn. Actually, no, we don't do that first, sorry. My apologies. Because we're going to see if they have the Nib first. So we're going to Sacred Summit from OU. And then we're going to make the Predaplant for these 2. And then if they have the Nib, they're going to do it here, right? And then we're going to Long Yarn, discard Blackout, summon Long Yarn, a token. Because they would have nibbed on the summon of the Predaplant, right? So we know we're good to go from here. We're going to make floor. Burn them for 12, and then we're going to trigger the Predaplant, right? Send Dasher from the hand, and then the guys from deck. So, Celestial and Dasher, Infusion Destiny and stuff. And then we're going to have a DPE plus a Predaplant with 2 hand traps, basically, and a floor. So this play is a lot like stronger, but it does play into Nib, which is why I'm less inclined to do it. And it doesn't have any like hard generated follow-up, but it does have these 2. So it sort of depends, like I said, if you know what you're playing against and your opponent's not likely to be on Nib, then this is probably the line that's worth doing, because it generates a lot more interaction. And if we want to play around Zeus a little bit extra, we could pop these 2 in the end phase, and this just summons itself back, and then they don't have anything to attack directly into to force our DPE, which is kind of cool. So yeah, this would probably be the better line, actually. So yeah, I'm learning with you guys as we go, sort of thing. It depends on like how you want to play around certain things. And if they nib on the Predaplant, we'd still be able to make a floor, which is, we'd have the nib token and a floor, because we discard Blackout for Long Yarn still. And then we'd have this and 2 interactions, which isn't terrible, but it doesn't give us any hard drawn follow-up, assuming we're drawing order. Well, that was a nib, but you know, the previous draw in the example hand was order. So that's kind of an interesting one. But like I said, there's a lot of ways to sort of play out your hands. Like there was like 4 or 5 different ways to play out the Swordsoul hand here. Do one more random hand, and then I'll show you some sort of like generic sort of idea of combo sort of thing and stuff you can do. It's pretty cool, or like some little tips and stuff. I'll try and make this video all encompassing in less than like 20 minutes, but we'll see. So this is Ecclesia, Emergence, Blackout, Fusion Destiny. Okay, so this hand's like really, really good. The only thing we're missing is some hand traps, but we'll see if we can find them later, sort of thing. So this is a hand where we're going to make all our interruptions like through our plays, as opposed to like hard drawing stuff with like hand traps. So then this is like a nice little like decision tree to make. Is which one do you activate first? If you normal summon Ecclesia and this gets ashed, it, like your hand kind of like turns to like nothing. Well, not nothing, but it's like a lot worse. Whereas if you activate Emergence first, they're probably always going to ash the Emergence first, because it's one of the few things in this deck you can ash generically. So we're going to activate Emergence first, because it's like slightly safer, basically. And it works out to be the same sort of thing. So if our Emergence resolves, what we're going to do is we're going to add, I believe here, we are actually going to add Long Yarn. Because we have a second Swordsoul to discard, basically, right? So we're going to add Long Yarn. And this is where the hand gets kind of cracked, because we're going to discard Long Yarn for Blackout. And the reason we're doing this first is to force this Ecclesia through, because then it's going to get really, really crazy. So here, token, make our floor, burn the opponent for 12 or whatever. And now we're basically good for all hand traps in less than 5 summons, right? So then we're going to normal summon Ecclesia. Ecclesia effect's going to tribute itself. We're going to summon Moyi. Then Moyi is going to reveal this extra Swordsoul card, which is kind of why we did the Long Yarn play first, because we have the extra cards to reveal, because it's basically a full engine hand. We're going to summon the token, synchro the token, and the Moyi into Chi. Like I said, we're basically always making Chi. And then we have a couple of options in our decision tree. So we're going to go Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, draw this card. Oh, okay. This is the perfect example of the best hand then. So we'll keep this one going. So then Chi is going to add us something. So this is where our decision tree gets a little bit weird because this is our hand. So we don't want blackout, obviously, because there's no more in the deck. We've used Emergence this turn, and we've got loads in Grave, so we may not even need to add Emergence because Emergence would play into Ash or Imperial Order or something on the following turn. So basically our options are going to be, I think, Taie or Sacred Summon is basically our decision, like our options here, like our real options, right? So Sacred Summon we don't really need because we've already got the Fusion Destiny, so we don't exactly need to do anything like that. Like make the Prayer Plant. Also, we kind of want to black out this Chi Zhao, so we'll put the Sacred Summon back in and just take the Taie. This gives us like a hard drawn, basically a hard follow-up for next turn. But we're going to generate a lot, so I wouldn't worry about too much. Then we're going to Fusion Destiny, obviously, to summon DPE. And then we're going to send the 2 bricks. There they are, perfect. Then, because this hand was absolutely cracked, we're going to Desires this off. This is just the perfect example of how Fusion Destiny and Desires don't necessarily conflict, because we've resolved Fusion Destiny and now we just get Desires for free, but we get to see like a lot more cards. So 5, 10, 2, blank, Fusion Destiny and a Long Yun. That's pretty good actually, to be fair. See the banish, see the damage. Just kind of just like a bit of everything. Sacred Summon's gone, that's the only thing that's like really annoying there, but that's fine. And Desires is gone, so that's kind of cool as well. So from here, we have this blank, which is kind of cool. So something we can actually do here, which I think is pretty good, is we have obviously blackout to set, but we can also set Fusion Destiny. The reason for that is it just gives us a free thing to destroy off DPE, and it makes it harder to Cosmic Cyclone into the blinds, which is again not a horrible reason for having extra Fusion Destinies and stuff like that. The hand generated Long Yun and Taie for like follow-up and stuff. We have obviously got on the table, we've got blackout for 2 interactions, Chi Zhao for 1, floor for 1, floor for an Omnigate, sorry, and DPE as a pop. And then this is where the like cracked hands get kind of crazy, because our Grave is just like super generated. So our Chi Zhao could banish blackout to negate something, right? And then we summon the token off blackout to blackout tribute the token away instead of having to treat the Chi Zhao away to generate some more like sort of board presence. We've also obviously got Celestial and Dasher for when we play out this hand. And something else that's pretty cool is obviously we will be using the DP effect presumably at some point during our opponent's turn, which is another reason why we set Fusion Destiny. So we can, when this DPE goes to Grave, in the end phase, Ecclesia will trigger to add itself back to the hand. So this is what we generate, and then obviously we get a draw for turn, which just happens to be a monster that's fine. So we probably won't be triggering Celestial and Dasher this turn, but we do have these, basically another hand of Sword Souls plus whatever was left on our table afterwards, plus a DPE, right? So a lot of generation there from advantage, and that's basically the best hand in the deck. Only thing we could want different is this like Long Yun and Fusion Destiny to be like 2 hand traps or something. But pretty good, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go through some like generic like sort of tips and tricks. Biggest one is Ecclesia is mandatory. So when this DP is in the end phase, this is a mandatory effect to add back. You cannot miss this. So that's always really good. It's not like you can miss it optionally and be like, oh no, I forgot to add it back. It's mandatory, so you have to add it back. You will get a warning for missing it, but it has to go back into the hand, I believe, unless like the judge rules it as accepted game state or something. A really cool thing is this is really good going second, because obviously it's a Cyber Dragon. That's enough about Ecclesia though. So let's talk about some interesting stuff you can do with Vishuddha. So Vishuddha and like Moye, as I spoke about in the deck profile. So let's say we have like a blackout in hand or something, right? What we would do is going first, we'd summon Vishuddha. Normal summon Moye, reveal this. And then if this got impermed or veiled or something, we just make the Predator Plant, link to. And we're kind of good to go from there. And we've taken the interaction that would probably hit this. And then we just have this like random blackout, right? If not though, it gets really crazy, because we get to reveal this, synchro off into Chi Zhao. This line does play into Nib, but it's fine. Then we get to add Sacred Summit. When I can find it. It's on top naturally. Then we get Sacred Summit for Moyi. Turn these two into the Predator Plant. Do the Fusion Destiny effect. And then summon DPE as well. And then we'd have Blackout, Chijiao and DPE with the these two engraved for follow, but also a Tenyu Vishuda for a bounce potentially. And then loads of stuff to banish for Chijiao and Tai and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. I hope the camera picked that up. I didn't really see if I found when I found the grave if it picked up or not. But yeah, that's an example of why I think the DPE stuff is really, really strong, because it sort of gives you an extra form of extension. Oh yeah, here's a kind of a cool trick. It's not really a trick, this is just sort of like knowing the cards, I guess. So let's say there's a Blackout in our grave and a Tai in our hand or on field or whatever, right? So we're going to go Tai effect. Because this is a cost, we're going to banish Blackout. And now if our opponent has Valor or Impum, it's basically a blank, because if they don't think about it and they do it here, the Blackout triggers and just summons the token. And if not, then we get, basically, we can choose to summon the token or not, don't necessarily need to, but there's something cool we could do. I'll show you in a sec. So both our tokens trigger, right? I don't have a second token in hand, so this is just a token for the argument's sake. And then we'll synchro off the Tai and the token that Tai summoned for Chijiao. And then Chijiao will add a Sacred Summit. And then Sacred Summit will summon back Tai. And then, this could also send a Vishuda or a Moye if you have an extra thing in hand or something like that, which would be pretty cool. But for argument's sake, we'll just say that we're just always bringing back this, right? So we'll synchro off, and then we can summon like Dragite, Draker, or Baxia, basically. Which obviously, depending on if we're going first or second, could be really, really good. Something you could send Moye and then summon this, and then you have Spell Negate and a Monster Negate. If for some reason this isn't great, but generally we're going to assume that we're going second, right? So we're probably going to summon Baxia here. And this is where like sending the extra worm or whatever of Tai gets kind of important, because if we have a extra worm in hand, we can you know, Baxia spin 2 cards, because this is a water attribute and this is a wind for 2 different worms, and then we could like Baxia spin some stuff, Baxia itself bring back Moyi, and do like a Moyi reveal depending on our hand. But just assumably this is sort of like 1 card plays into like breaking your opponent's board pretty well, and then giving you a negate as well. And if you really want to, you could turn these 2 into DPE, which decent. Depends on sort of the game state. What else is pretty cool? Oh yeah, so this is like kind of scuffed, but let's say you this is kind of like a weird way to play around some stuff sometimes. So let's say our hand is like Moyi, Tai, and like Longyun, right? Just basically it's Moyi, Longyun, and then a Swordsoul or a Worm. So we'll Moyi reveal Tai, and let's say this gets impummed, right? So our next play would be to Tai, Longyun, discard Tai, summon the token, which is lost to the sands of time, because I put it into the extra deck. So we summon the token, and then what you can do here is, rather than just like be like, oh, I make Chijiao add something or make floor, you can synchro these 2. Go for Chijiao. And then Chijiao has the effect, so we draw a card from Moye, and then we'd also be able to banish, this can either add a card or banish a worm, Swordsoul from deck, so we'd actually banish Blackout here if we wanted to summon the token back, because then we can synchro the token in Longyun into floor, and then burn the opponent for 12 or whatever. So it's just like a different way to get to like the sort of end board if you already have like maybe like Blackout in hand or something like that, which is kind of cool. So that's like the last like tip / trick I think for this video. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed. That's just sort of like a couple of like little different ways to play the Swordsoul hands, good range of example hands, and some little tips and tricks and stuff like that. Yeah, cheers guys.